Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is the Seven Eagle Group, and we're back again with the Pay It Forward podcast. And I have our special guest today. I have Luis Abbott. He is a Army veteran and had a wide experience in IT, bringing his time over as an IT manager or IT Business Enablement Management over at HP. Thanks for joining us, Luis.
Hi, Brandon. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you too. Thank you too for your service. Did you do anything fun for Memorial Day?
Well, Memorial Day was more of a kind of a day of reflection, just to think about our fallen heroes. So we kept it quiet that day. I am looking forward to the summer and activities with the family, so that should be fun.
100%. I agree with you. That's with us being with the big military community that we have and understanding whether it been directly or indirectly, we all know somebody who was affected by a loss, and so it's an opportunity to kind of commemorate, and I did so as well. So I definitely want to break into it and tell the world a little bit more about Luis, but I want to start with the beginning. I would say. So what drove you to enlist in the military? How did that happen for you?
Sure, sure. I was young and, let's just say, a little crazy. So I uh, I wanted to make sure that before I continued with my college education, that I understood the world and how the world worked, right? And um, you know, I, I spoke to my parents, and at first they were against it, but then I convinced them that it was the right thing for me. Spoke with a recruiter. He talked to me about the different opportunities, and I liked what I heard. And I said, you know what? Now's the time. Let me do this while I'm young, right? And I signed up, and I did my tour, and it was funny. You know how the army goes, right? You to be sent overseas, and they send you stateside. And as I was
Yeah.
saying, I spent my whole time in Fort Carson, so you know, it was, I guess, different than other folks' military career. I'm, I'll tell you, I'm with the first glad to help heroes come back and get into the business world. And that's the journey I'm on right now.
That's really good. I think that's amazing, and it, it's just, and inspiring too as well. So I do want to ask you though. So like, what was the pivot point for you? What made you think, hey, I want to make a move, or I want to transition out of service, and how did that come about?
Sure, sure. You're going to laugh. Um, my times, right? As I was going through that, the officers and staff figured out I knew how to use computers, which they didn't at that time. So they pulled me into staff to help them with computers. So I
Mm-hmm.
spent, most of my time helping them just figure out the systems and some of the early versions of the what they call the MCS system, right? Which is basically a bunch of big boxes with pieces of computers in them, and you connected those, put them in a 577, and then you took that to the field to go do command and control. Spending most of my time in front of a computer and not inside a tank. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's time for a change. And that's, it just kind of happened, right? My enlistment was up, and I looked at my options. There was a good school there in Colorado Springs. I could go to school while working to support my wife and my family at that time. And I made the change. I made the jump. Now, I will say this: back then, civilian transition wasn't what it is now, right?
Mhm.
There was no internet. All these support systems we have in place now, there was no way for people to reach out. My first civilian job, I when they say pounded the pavement, I
Mhm.
actually walked around different businesses, giving them my resume. I read the newspaper. I know people may not even know what a newspaper is anymore, right? But want ads in the newspaper looking for a job. I had to go do all that myself. There was a little bit of transition assistance from the military, but it wasn't very robust at that time because they weren't really used to that kind of transition at that point, right? The
Mhm.
expectation for most folks was you're going to join the military, you're going to be there your whole career, and then you're going to retire, and then you're going to do something else.
Mhm.
Um, but having people rotating in and out was a very different experience back then. I'm not saying they weren't trying to help. I'm saying they had a hard time figuring out how to help. And folks that left the military, they went about their business, but they had no way to come back and tell
Mhm.
people their story, unless maybe they work for the VA or something like that, right? But that was a rare thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it was definitely a little bit more scarce. So I really, flipped the script, and like nowadays, I think it's definitely in a better place than it was, 10 years ago or whatnot. But if you can remember, as you were transitioning, was there any resources or any organizations that was beneficial for you when you were transitioning out?
Um, I did get some help from the VA Career Assistance Office. I went and visited them, but you have to go drive to Denver because that's the only local place in Colorado that you
Mm-hmm.
could go get VA assistance for that. So I went there
Mm-hmm.
once, but like I said, most of the time uh, I had to just do it on my own. Right now, nowadays, I am really glad that we have the facilities we have now. We have the ability to even create this podcast and get people to hear about the ways that they can go find a job and get help. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make it really any easier for that individual, right? I think we all
Right.
need to recognize that it's still a tough transition, even with all the tools, and the uh, different uh, websites that you can go to now to get information. It's still hard. You still have to do some legwork yourself to figure out what that next step is. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
even figuring out what that next step was, that was probably for me the biggest challenge. How am I going to make that change from being a soldier to being a civilian and a gainfully employed member of the workforce, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the resources that actually helped me a lot was my own family, right? My my dad worked in the computer industry, so he could give me advice there. What I would encourage any soldier that's ready to make that transition, any service member, reach out to, first of all, your network of friends that have recently transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
Second, take advantage of the programs that are available from not only the Army, Navy, the Air Force, Marine Corps, right? They all have transition programs now. Also, reach out to the VA. The VA has a lot more resources for job placement than they used to. A ton of resources. Take advantage. It's all free and there for you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you my example. I now live in Texas. People
Mm-hmm.
in Texas love their veterans. Every city and the state have programs designed to help military veterans transition to the civilian workforce. You just go to the local employment office. You can go to the city hall, and they will have an office there for veterans, so that you can have a chat with somebody that can help you make that transition as well. And finally,
Mm-hmm.
don't underestimate the power of your own marketing and your own brand. Get on sites like LinkedIn. That's how you guys found me. You found me on LinkedIn. Get
Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn. Uh, put your profile out there. Don't think that your military experience doesn't translate into civilian experience. I mean, my MOS was 19 kilo. How many tanks did
Mm-hmm.
you see out there in the civilian world? Not many, right? But because I had a little bit of other experience working with the staff and things of that nature, I used that to kind of build my resume. And here's where, and I will say this, when I'm doing my own hiring and looking out there for candidates, if I see a veteran, I'm going to lean more towards hiring that veteran. And here's why. I know they have received a lot of instruction on leadership. I know
Mhm,
they know how to wake up every morning and get the job done. I
mhm,
know that they know about hardship, about working in stressful situations. I know they know how to solve problems. They have all
mhm.
that ability within them. Every veteran that's listening to this today, know this: you are more capable than you think you are, and you're more powerful than you think you are. Use that to your
One
advantage.
100%, Lewis. I'm telling you right now, you just dropped so many nuggets in that little time that people can take and use continuously and capture some of the things that I want to kind of ask about too as well. And you hit something that is very important. I think with your previous MOS, right, and transitioning out of service, people sometimes get into a mode where they think it's they call it imposter syndrome, where they're like, do
Hmm.
I do I belong in this position? Is this for me?
I belong. Can I
Did
do
that
this?
happen?
Right.
Did you experience that?
Yeah. So actually, at the beginning, when I had my first job in technology, I couldn't believe it. I was working in a semiconductor factory. I was making
Mm,
chips. I was working with the very sophisticated machines that we use to create these very complex electronic devices. And I
mm,
could have to pinch myself because here I was, you know, doing a very advanced job straight out of the military.
mm,
And the next job after that, working for HP now, right? So 26 almost years now with HP. That next job working with HP was like a dream job. I was working
mm,
doing as a technician. I was actually getting well paid to do a fairly interesting job. And as
mm,
soon as I got into HP, all these opportunities opened up, right? So
mm,
just being willing to take that first step is really crucial, right? Because that first step is what's going to set you up for success.
mm,
Because honestly, you're not going to find a challenge in the business world that you don't know as a veteran how to overcome. And I will tell you
mm,
why. Because, and maybe, I don't know, some of the folks that are listening to this may have had a similar experience. When I was in the Army, they would take us to the National Training Center in California.
mm,
And we were a combat unit, we were a tank battalion. So they go out there and they kill the colonel, they kill the majors, they kill the captains, they'll leave the lieutenants and the NCOs and the enlisted folks to see if they could solve the problem and continue the mission. And guess
mm,
what? Yes, we could. Yes, we did. Right. And that was just a training exercise, but it was very powerful. So look back at those kinds of experiences and think about how you reacted there. You're going to find challenges in the workplace, and maybe the tools that you use to solve the problem aren't the same, but the method of thinking about solving the problem probably is, right?
mm,
I'll give you one very specific example. Some of the work I do in the technology field is I manage a team of folks that provide solution consulting. What that
mm,
is we have in our company teams that deploy applications. This is software that they deploy on different systems to support our finance, our supply chain, right? And supply chain is interesting because supply chain is just the same thing it is in the military.
mm,
All right. It's just getting the supplies to where they need to be. So, um, all these systems, right? They need somebody to figure out how to best deploy them. And in some cases, they may be in an older data center. We need to move them to a new data center. That's
mm,
kind of that's like a battle. That's a mission, right? That is your objective. In the business world, everything is about objectives,
mm,
goals, very goal oriented. So you're actually going to document what your goals are for the year, the 6 month period, however you want to track it, right? The same thing in the military,
mm,
you have a battle plan, right? And you have a mission, and then you have to reach a different language, maybe different set of technical terms, right? But the concept is very similar,
Hmm.
actually.
It is. It is. No, you're 100% right. 100%, and it translates too as well. And I wanted to ask you too. Do okay, for tech industry. So a lot of times our transitioning service members, a lot of people want to transition and pivot from one career into IT and
Hmm.
technology. What
Yeah,
advice would you give those folks out there who are making a pivot into to your
great
industry?
question. Great question. So take advantage. Probably the last 2 years of your enlistment, or of your service period as an officer, right? Depending where you're coming from. Take advantage of the education opportunities that the military provides you. People don't know this, but you can actually get technical certifications while you're still serving.
Mm-hmm.
What those certifications will help you do is understand how that technology works. Because once you understand how the technology works, it's more about thinking about how you engage with your colleagues to make projects happen. Most of the work you're going to see in the world of IT is either what they call operations support, which is you may be in a call center, you may be in a network operations center, and you're making sure that all the systems are running in a safe, secure manner, right? And that they're stable and performing well. Or you're doing projects for deployments, like a new application or a new set of servers in a new data center, right? So in either one of those opportunities, that technical knowledge that you can pick up even before you leave the military will help you have that leg up. Because a person that has already some technical certification and their military experience, that is a fantastic candidate.
One
Very,
hundred percent.
very strong as a candidate. You look for
100%.
that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And Louis, I don't know if you've heard, have you heard of the DoD Skill Bridge program as well?
I have not. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so with the DoD Skill Bridge program, it's one of those transitioning programs, but it's probably the top performer right now, where it's allowing service members to intern with companies for 90 from 90 to 180 days, right? Now, the military is still paying for that person. They're still paying that individual, so they're still in service, but technically they're working for company X, whoever
Wow.
is a DoD Skill Bridge partner. So such as HP or your micro, whoever. And now they get to gain those civilian industry skills while still in service, but right before they transition out of service.
Sure. That is fantastic. So I would highly encourage any service members that are thinking of making the transition, look into that program. I can tell you that many companies employ similar programs to help people build the skill sets while they're making the transition. And like I said, the scary part is taking that first step. But it's like, and I'm not airborne, because you don't want to throw a tank out of a plane. You'll just make a big hole in the ground, right? But for the folks that are airborne, think about this: your first jump. Think about your first jump. How scary was that? Airplane's flying just fine, nothing's leaking, and yet you're going to jump out of that plane. This leap into your civilian career is the same. It's scary, but you've got the training, you've got the experience, you can do it, right? So
Exactly.
and again, yeah, it's hard. I went through it myself. It can be hard, but it is doable. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to pretend I'm the smartest person out there, but I brought a good attitude to it. Bring your
Mhm.
best attitude. Bring your can-do attitude. The same attitude that got you promoted in the military, bring that, because
Mhm.
that same attitude will get you in the door and promoted in the business world.
Very true. Wise words. Well, hey, Lewis, I asked the questions I had to run, and I think we've spread so much knowledge just in the 20 minutes that we've been on. But I want to leaving it in your hands. Is there any lasting words that you want to shout out to our military veteran and transitioning
Absolutely.
service member community?
Um, like I said before, build your network. Here's like three things that you should be doing right now if you're transitioning. Number one, look for those programs to help you transition, be it with the DoD, with the VA, right, with employees in the local area where you want to live. They're out there. Second, build your brand, create your profile on LinkedIn or other professional websites so that people can see all the awesome accomplishments that you have. And three, reach out and build out your network. What I mean by that is you're going to have buddies that left before you did, and they're out there, and you hopefully kept in touch. Reach out to them, see how it's going for them. When you're in a place like LinkedIn, from that website, you can go find and search for other military veterans. Reach out,
Mm-hmm.
connect with them, ask them to chat with you for 15 minutes. I love it when people reach out to me and they're not trying to sell me anything or have me spend 15 minutes just to figure out where do I go next? What do I do? How do I do it? How did you do it? That conversation is
Mm-hmm.
helpers out there that you know. It
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, highly unusual or unlikely that a fellow veteran having you reach out to them will say, "No, I can't help you." That
Mm-hmm.
I'd be ashamed if I heard of that, right?
Hundred
I mean,
percent.
it's just like when I met the folks from Second Eagle. They just reach out on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, we saw you're a veteran. Would you like to tell us about your experience?" Why the hell not?
Yeah, yeah. And
It's that
taught
now.
once. They said, you spread your word, right? And if you only touch
Mhm.
one person, that's all that matters.
Exactly, exactly. That's we're there to help each other out. I strongly
Mm-hmm.
believe that. I've seen it in action, so I know it works. Right. Um, some final pieces of advice I will tell you. It is not always necessary to have a 4-year college degree. It is helpful when you're looking to move from a entry level to a senior level position or a management position. So
Mm-hmm.
take it in steps. You can get a 2-year technical degree, get your foot in the door, right? Grow your career, and then finish the other 2 years and keep you growing your career even more. Don't feel like you have to do it all at once. I didn't. I had a civilian job and I just went to school until I finished. And once I finished, that really opened up my career choices because I had my military experience, I had work experience in the civilian world, and I had my degree. That really helps you with that career advancement. So don't be afraid or don't think that you have to just do it all at once. You can do it in pieces. Now, should you already have a degree? Fantastic. That's a leg up. Military experience plus a degree? Come on. What's better than that?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You know.
One final thing I will say, and it's about how you approach working in the civilian world versus working in the military. Um, when I started working in the civilian world, companies didn't really have this complete holistic approach to taking care of their employees. You were actually on your
Mm-hmm.
own a lot. Nowadays, though, every single company that's a major company, a strong company out there, and a great employer has programs to help veterans, has
Mm-hmm.
programs for your health, right, including your
Mm-hmm.
mental health. We know people struggle sometimes. As a veteran, I had my moments of self doubt. You know, use those programs, help them help you overcome any fears, right, any stressors in your life. People get stressed, and some of you veterans, again, I praise you for what you've done for this country, but it was scary and stressful, and in some
Mm-hmm.
cases you might need additional help and counseling to move past it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's okay. Know that there are people out there ready to help you. It's a tough thing when you have somebody that has, in some cases, I'll say PTSD, right? It's a real thing. Don't be afraid to ask for that additional help because getting that help will actually make you even more successful.
Mm-hmm. So
And
true.
the final
So
thing,
true.
when you start with civilians out there inside, right? You're going to people approach things differently. Not everybody you talk to is going to know what being a member of the service is. Uh, there are programs that are approach to things is going to be different. That doesn't make it wrong, right? Just like you did in the military, you have people from all over the country coming together to participate in a unit and that unit's activities. That would have people from many different backgrounds. Where you have a leg up as a veteran is you already know how to work with people from many different backgrounds because the
Mm-hmm.
military is one of the most diverse organizations in the nation. So you actually have that strength inside you already. Use it to your advantage.
100%.
And with that, Brandon, I'll give it back to you.
All right. Lewis, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you answering the call and paying it forward to our community here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And team out there on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, hey, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in, and you'll see us next time on Pay It Forward.